Welcome back, everyone. We do have a really fun presentation for you now, looking at the artistic side of crypto. So I'd like to welcome onto the stage Crypto Finally and VESA, who's the founder of artforcrypto.com. Please give them a very warm welcome.
Thank you. And Ralph, let's just press play, as they say.
And I am on. Okay, so my name is Rachel Siegel, and some people like to refer to me as Crypto Finally. What I love to study about the cryptocurrency and blockchain space is demographic expansion and looking at how do we get more people involved and using cryptocurrency involved in the blockchain space, thinking about things like decentralization and immutability. How does that affect us as people if immutability is not in itself unity and not needing definitive factors in order to get people involved, looking outside of the current group of people that we have, and starting to think about different skill sets, different people who should be involved in the space, what they can bring to the space, and what it actually means for us to open up. So I think that it's really important when we look at this that we figure out, what can we do as people who are actively in the space right now to create exposure and accessibility outside of what we see, outside of the rooms that we look in and we work in, and the way that this industry has been building up over time. So how do we expand in things like media and things like pop culture and really make it so that people can get involved and welcome them into the space? So as you can see, we have a projector going of this beautiful art here behind me, and a lot of the process of what we're saying here is just, let's think about intellect, let's think about skill set, let's think about varying people and what they can bring to us in a helpful, communicative manner in the blockchain space. And we don't always just have to look on the outside, and advocating for starting on the inside out. Thank you. VESA?
Thank you, Rachel. Now on to something entirely different. Oh, well, the whole idea of this is that there's places that are we normally consider to be very peaceful, like Portland, Oregon, or Paris, or you go to Spain in multiple places, or Chile, or Hong Kong. We've all seen the riot-y kind of images everywhere, and literally the world seems to be burning at the moment to a relative degree, and that's what those videos were about, so it was a little bit more illustrative than just speaking about it. But yeah, the Simpsons, the pitchforks are coming. And just to illustrate what these things are, for example, there's a Guardian article that was just made about a while ago about the new elite's phony crusade to save the world. And it's about the tech world and the failed promises that we've been giving from this space and many others. And some people aren't really receiving like we're doing a good job of that. And this tweet on the right corner here is by Peter Joseph. He's an American filmmaker. And he made this Zeitgeist film series that has been just some years ago already downloaded by 250 million times or something. And he seems to be of the opinion that the entrepreneur is the worst thing to ever to have happened to humanity. And while I don't agree with that, it's just coming outside of from the outside into the crypto bubble or the technology bubble of what we have, just to say that none of us are safe, even if we're saying all the right things and whatever. So we really do need to deliver from this space, and that's part of the presentation. And we do have some real problems. We have climate change over here, or you have the AI, the Terminator scenario, you have the age-old capitalism, socialism thing, you have addiction, fake news, bipartisan politics, strip mining of the oceans, and all that plastic over there, as well as the coming economy world crash, as we know that it's coming with the fiat currencies, and we don't really know what's going to happen with the next turn. The barbarians are at the door, I suppose, what I'm trying to say. And many of us here in the crypto space know that the purchasing power of the dollar in the span of 100 years has come down quite drastically. I think it's at least 96% or something like that. And we're trying to figure it out. And in this space, in particular, we're trying to find where the value is. And my particular expertise as a crypto artist and someone who writes in this space and does a whole different kinds of things is to find creative solutions and think outside the box. And this is what this whole presentation is about. And I do go to a lot of different crypto conferences. I go to AI conferences and IoT. And I'm disturbed by the very comfortable sort of mantra that people keep saying, that 9 out of 10 businesses fail. And it's just taken for granted. And I sort of just let that sink in for a little bit, what it means to your families, what it means to your business, your savings, your life. How bad does it feel to fail at something where so many people are involved in a business going down? And I really started thinking, does this have to be this way? And the AI awakening is upon us, and there's all the Elon Musk and sort of predictions of how it's going to take us over. But then there's also very positive things about it, like potentially maybe we'll have for the first time in the world the unbiased news, because if you think that there's going to be a machine that can take in all the information of the world and deliver us something that would be a unique perspective, that something like we've never had before, maybe we can make better decisions. So now onto something that is even more discerning in the tech space, because many here feel that they're atheist or at least very secular. And to talk about religion is not entirely kosher. But in order to talk about creativity, I have to go there. So the story of creation is usually what we're given as kids, and that's even as adults, whether you believe it or not, it's sort of the framework of your whole worldview. And funnily enough, when you get into the crypto space, it is actually kind of religious from a certain kind of point of view. Like you have the Messiah of Satoshi Nakamoto, and then you have the 12 apostles. You have the very sort of enthusiastic followers and if you follow one group, then you can't follow another and we can't be friends anymore and all this kind of stuff. And there's a big mission, like I said, about the pitchforks. So if I do anything as an artist, maybe as a perspective of giving you a presentation, it's about putting things into perspective and why I really like what the Litecoin Foundation and what the kind of spirit at this conference is, which is more about inclusion rather than the infights. And this is a guy that I really like to promote, even though he doesn't need promotion from me in many ways. Sir Ken Robinson, he has these very famous TED Talks called Do Schools Kill Creativity? And the breadth and width of his talk is that we still run the global education system, the values of it, with the values of industrial revolution. And even though we have all of this technology, we have all of the machines to create abundance, we're not very creative. We tend to just rip people off and repeat the same mistakes over and over again. So what he's saying here is that creativity is as important now in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status. And I'm really privileged to bring this message to the tech space, because here it's very, very much needed, and maybe ties down to the 9 out of 10 will fail. Because if we demand that the global education system finally updates itself to where we are now, maybe we would have 3 Elon Musks. Maybe 9 out of 10 won't survive. That's a little optimistic. But maybe if we can get that to 3 out of 10 will succeed, that would be pretty incredible. And I think if we started educating people into creativity instead of out of it, like we do now, that would be a pretty incredible thing. Where people like money, people like to do well. So one perspective that I realized that this whole thing, and it's especially easy to say in the crypto space, because wealth is creation, is something that people who are successful entrepreneurs or wealth coaches often say. So if you think that you don't get taught in school what money is, you might get taught what money does, but not what it is, then, and you don't, the creativity is at the bottom. Those two things are the least likely things that you'll learn from school in order to implement into your lives, and they're likely the most important things in order for us to do well and avoid those pitchforks. Okay, that's the grand scheme of things, and as like I said, I'm a crypto artist, so I do make art pieces. So in order to tell a little bit of what the evolution of the crypto art scene, which is, it's rare that evolutions in art as significant as this happen. This is probably the first time that money and creativity is together bundled up like this. But to tell you a little bit about why crypto art is significant. And here you have the image of Guernica by Pablo Picasso, and it was his comment on the Second World War and the horrors that were upon us, and it's now at the United Nations. And it's a very important art piece. I don't personally think it's one of his best. It's fairly silly, but it's historically significant and made at a certain kind of time, and most people recognize it. But the art world, in my opinion, has lost its way a little bit because it's been deconstructing the deconstruction to the point that looks to me pretty crazy. Like this, for example, is a very famous artist called Cy Twombly, and his untitled piece here sold for 36 million at an auction. And to me personally, because I'm a little bit now of an outsider from the art world, I can say that it looks like a fucking ketchup accident. Thank you. So the art world has been printing itself to the ground a little bit like the Bolivar. And there's forgery in the art world, what the Christie's and the Sotheby's, who are pretty much the top, and they have the biggest machine to verify the art pieces. They don't like to admit the number, but it's somewhere around 50% of what it can be that the art what they're selling are actually forgeries. So this is a pretty tremendous problem in the art world at the moment. And this is why blockchain is important, because we can actually tackle a lot of those problems. And yeah, there's a lot of the emperor's new clothes type of situation, what is going on in the art world. And I feel so good being on a stage and actually saying that. As an artist, it's rare, I can tell you that. So the transition, because of the fakes, what's important about it is that those of us who create digital originals and reproduce them in various ways, the digital artworks right now still are something that people don't really think that are valuable, and especially not in the art world. But because the blockchain solutions, you can authenticate them so securely, and especially those of us who are living artists who do it right now, that's solving so many problems that you know you're buying the real deal. So if you believe in that artist and you believe in that investment, then you can trust that that's actually the real thing. So that's a massive evolution, and it's cool to be professing that on stage. So we're going to see a big transformation in the art world because of that. So you see some of the pieces here behind me, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about them. But just to kick this off, I don't make luxury products, which is what most people think that art pieces are. I make investments. And the physical items that increase your life experience, they're super rare. They showcase historic events like the Guernica. And they're verified on the blockchain and known throughout the crypto community. I've been around for about 2.5 years now. So I'm a bit of a black sheep because I like to talk about money as well as part, because it's the poor bastards, us artists, who have to die poor, and then everyone else makes all the money afterwards. And I hate that part. So this kindly is the art piece called Invisibility. It was commissioned by the Litecoin Foundation. And it's the past, present, and future of money. So this is how they become an education. Like, for example, here, I started thinking about this whole thing. If the Litecoin Foundation gives you an opportunity to make an art piece, you really want to make it right? So we had conversations with Johnny Litecoin. Charlie Lee came on for a podcast, as well as David Schwartz. So we started to figure out what this thing is. And this is the Jekyll Island silhouetted in a dollar bill, and you have the all-seeing eye of the $1 and the pyramid structure. And some people think it's all the conspiracy theories in the world, but the pyramid is also the most stable structure in the world. And you have the Jordan Peterson lobster over there, as well as the Tulip Media. Is the fiat system the biggest ever Ponzi scheme that we've come up with or not? It's a very confusing thing. The secret meeting of 1910 that birthed the Fed is there underneath the LO, and so the Litecoin logo and B. So it's really hard to figure out, because Ron Paul was here on stage just a while ago, and he's been asking the Fed direct questions, and he doesn't seem to get direct answers of how this thing entirely operates. So what chance do we have? But I'm not saying it's all bad. It definitely isn't. But there's certainly something really murky going on there. So on the right side here, then it's the crypto Trojan horse made out of circuit boards that enters this space. And it's engulfed in a different kind of pyramid. It's 9, 6, and 3, because Nikola Tesla famously said that if we only understand the significance of 3, 6, and 9, we'd have the keys to the universe, or secrets of the universe. And the way that I understand that quote is that it's something to do with natural law, hierarchy, mathematics, things like that. And in crypto, we trust mathematics, not each other most of the time. And so that's come here to balance the system a little bit. And the $1 text there is being transformed into "We love decentralized" and the first Genesis block of the Litecoin thing. And this whole monetary war that is upon us constantly, those of us who are on the inside of this thing, it's mostly invisible to the grand public. And it's invisible, like Charlie Lee said, that is, most people don't care about systems that actually function. So the aim of this whole thing is to get a blockchain-made sky that is integrated almost invisibly to the whole space, so that we would at least have half decentralized systems competing with the centralized systems. And maybe that's enough of the evolution in a short time span of what we're after. And that's why the Statue of Liberty is here, because it's all happening sort of behind the scenes. And if art has any function here whatsoever, I think, is to keep the big picture in mind and not the infights, even though I understand why some of them are really important to be had as conversations and competition. But it's reaching, the freedom flame is reaching the amalgam of the earth and moon, because we all want to moon, we want to do well, we want to thrive, but we want to keep the big picture in mind of why we do this for. And this is my privilege as an artist, to give myself the permission just to keep that in mind where we're trying to get to. And that's the art piece. And it's 1 out of 3. The first one is spoken for, so there's only 2 left of these repaint ones. And the price of it is tied to Bitcoin. So it's 1 Bitcoin now, and it'll be 1 Bitcoin in 10 years. Like I said, I make investments. So that's just the picture of when we first went to the moon. The most important picture that we ended up taking was of the Earth, because that changed all of our consciousness. So that's what I believe that the blockchain is doing, and I hope you join with me to keep that perspective. Here, right now, we're doing a collaboration with Codex Protocol that verify a lot of art pieces on the blockchain. And these things are in the art room. The digital original of this we're giving away for free for everyone who's attending this conference. So all you need to do is take this QR code, and in 2 days this closes, and then you can't download it anymore. So it's a limited edition to all of us here, and it's I probably think that no more than 100 people will download this, and that's probably quite optimistic. Let's see how many do. But it's a tradable commodity. Then you can check out the Codex Protocol website of how it really functions. But like I said, I do believe these digital art pieces are going to be much, much more valuable than the physical ones in the near future. So it doesn't take a lot to do that QR code thing. I can't show this now as a video either, but Coinvention just a while ago, I thought this was a genius marketing move by the conference in Philadelphia, is that they hired out this billboard, and they put a bunch of influencers as speakers and flew a drone over that whole thing, because then obviously someone tickles your ego like that, you have to share it on social media. I mean, that's just dope to be on a billboard. But I thought, instead of putting my own face there, I'd put this art piece for notoriety. So those kinds of things matter. Provenance matters into these art pieces and into the value of them. So that's maybe some compelling reasons of why to get involved. This piece here is super awesome. I wanted to do something very, very lighthearted for once. I wanted to do my Dogecoin of sorts, and I went on a Bad Crypto podcast. My episode was 130, and then basically we had a common mission with Joel and Travis at World CryptoCon last year, because they were emceeing, and I wanted to make this special piece with them and get it signed by them. But we ended up going cross, so I crashed their live podcast with Maxine Ryan, Winnie Lingham, Ronnie Moas, and Charlie Lee, and they all ended up signing it for charity. And with Blake Rizzo, who's here, the Litecoin Foundation lawyer, he helped me set up this whole idea that with Tour de Crypto, we're going to donate this thing to Hawk, a Houston women's center that's been fighting for 40 years to help women and children against violence and sexual abuse. So we're trying to get over $1 million for this thing and be donated directly to the charity, so there can't be any middlemen. The one who gets it will know exactly where the money goes to, and it's verified on the blockchain as well. And because of this gesture of the stars signing it, we started getting more. So just recently, it was Vitalik Buterin who signed it. Roger Ver came in. You have Peter McCormack who signed it, as in CSV is not Satoshi. And then Craig Wright signed it. Craig Wright, AKA Satoshi Nakamoto. And then he went to Peter and said, soon to be bankrupt Mr. McDruggy. So this has become a total sort of pissing contest of egos. And it's historic. If you imagine that all of these signatures, and Andreas Antonopoulos, of course, which is incredible to have her. Naomi Brockwell just joined us with her signature, which is really, really cool to get more women on this thing as well, who are important influencers in the space. And yeah, Vitalik's an alien. So yeah, that's that. those are the names who've thus far signed it. And I'm incredibly lucky to be doing this at this moment in time, because if you think in 10 years what the blockchain space is going to be like, the chances of someone getting all of those signatures in one art piece, this is like capturing lightning in a bottle, folks. So I'm assuming that's going to be a hell of a lot more money than $1 million pretty quickly. So Forever Rose by Kevin Abosch is the current title holder of $1 million for a crypto art piece. And that's Hawk. So that's what we're trying to beat. That's Hawk, Tour de Crypto. Please listen to Blake Rizzo's episode with Bad Crypto Podcast as well to get more insight into that. And this is something that I really want to put to bed because, and this is really personal. This hurts to be here on stage and talking about this particular part because most people, quite often when they see these, it's a natural question to ask. It's like, how long did it take you to create that? And it's a painful question to really answer, which I can't often do. So I thought I'd save it on stage. So the Dolly clocks, time. What does time mean? When I was in my before even I got into my 20s, other people got jobs and they did certain normal people things, which I didn't really do because I was obsessed about this kind of thing. So when I'm now 41 years old, and for the first 20 years, when other people were buying houses and cars and going on holidays and buying clothes and get into accidents, they had some reserves or health crisis or whatever, they could deal with those things because they had money. I didn't have it. So that was the sacrifice in order to start making these. And finally, they're ready so that people actually want them. So I've gone through a hell of a lot of different kinds of things. I'm actually not that natural here on the stage, but I've pushed myself to be here, to be talking in front of you, to share this message so that it gets out there. So I'm not just in my cellar sort of creating these things. I also write for Gokhshtein magazine as well as News BTC in my second language. So that was another push forward. And I go to high-status people to ask for opportunity, or like the Litecoin Foundation, and hand in hand, can you guys please help us out so that us creatives sort of rise from the bottom so we can help this space as well. And I literally risked my life for another project that I've already talked about many times before with this Bollywood actress who was Pakistani and Muslim. So to body paint her, we could have been killed for that, but instead we changed the world and reached about 300 million people with about 25,000 euros. I thought that was pretty okay. And I had to leave my country with my lady for new opportunities because Finland is great for many things, but it's not the mecca for art. So it's about sacrifice, vision, and perseverance. And that's where the value comes from. And then whatever it takes to make these things is insignificant to that. So for me personally to be here, what it feels like is kind of like the end of Shawshank Redemption. You crawl through the shit tunnel to the rain and start finally saying hello to all of you people. That's what it's about. Wall Street versus Crypto Street. We're incredibly lucky because I don't know a single artist who is pro-Wall Street, but I don't also know a single artist who is anti-crypto. So, but this might change. If you guys support the artists who are genuinely inspired and enthusiastic about helping everyone in this space thrive, please support them because they might eventually turn on you and someone's going to smell an opportunity to be the first sort of anti-crypto artist, and that's going to be a financial thing. But right now, it's nothing but positive. So please embrace that. One of the things that I pushed with the Litecoin Foundation is that I just made an art piece for this MX Publishing Sherlock Holmes art book that is coming out next year. And with a little bit of meddling, they now started accepting Bitcoin and Litecoin in order for you to buy those books. So I really appreciate what the Litecoin Foundation is doing with the Miami Dolphins and MMA and all that kind of stuff, because it really reaches outside of the bubble. So I try and help those kinds of things happen as well. Didi Taihutu is here. We literally did that just across a couple of rooms yesterday. We body painted him as Bitcoin Atlas. So he did his Bitcoin Haka, and that's coming soon as a project. I'm incredibly lucky to have, this is a Bollywood project, by the way. This is one of the images that we made with Veena. And Michael Schwartz from the Integral Institute that I was lucky to come across in my early 20s gave me a worldview of trying to put this value into this whole space from all different angles. And he's definitely competent to say this thing, and I'm incredibly lucky to have this quote by him, which is that my art is amongst the most integrally advanced in the history of Western abstraction, no small claim, but one not backed up by the works themselves. So he put me in the same category as the people creating the Guernicas, so I'm not just delusional saying that I think that these might be valuable. The current world population is massive, and I think the quote that is told to newbies who do keynotes is something like, there's more people alive today than have ever died. And basically that's just about that if you think that you want the oil original, that's incredibly unfair with a small amount of money with the amount of people that we right now have from top artists from any space. So that's how this ties into some of these very rare art pieces. The way that I sell them, especially the repaints, as I said, is tied to 1 Bitcoin. So if you think Bitcoin is going to moon, these are pretty cheap right now in order to get. This was the last one. It actually sold yesterday out of the 3. So that's done, I suppose. CoinGenius AI, they helped me get here. They got a print, and I augmented it for them, so I just wanted to give them a shout-out. And Cryptopoly, who raps about crypto in the UK and goes all over the place, he got another print. So this sponsorship from them in order to get a print and help us out to get here was really cool, so shout-out for them. I'm artforcrypto.com. My name is VESA. Here's how you find me. Thank you ever so much.